I'm Jason. On my podcast, What Works, I interview authors, educators, executives, and people who work to change the world. I walk for a moment on their journey and learn from them. For me, that's what works. You're listening to What Works with Jason Todd, and today my guest is Bill Dolan. Fascinating guy. He's been in the television and entertainment industry for years. He's an Emmy-nominated TV director, but the cool thing we're talking about today is in 1999, he had an after-death experience, which changed his life, his business, and marketing. He wrote a book about it called 7 Disciplines of Relationship Marketing. Bill, welcome to What Works.
Thank you so much, Jason. It's great to be here. I'm excited to make sure that of all the incredible shows you've done, this will be one of them.
I am hopeful as well. We've spent a handful of minutes talking right before we recorded this, and we are kindred spirits, I can tell.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. You spent years in TV and entertainment, and now we meet, by happenstance on LinkedIn, because you're talking about a serious life event, which seems far from entertainment and marketing. Connect the dots here. What were you doing before this life event, and how did that shift occur?
Well, sure. It's an interesting. It's not Plan A. I'll just tell you that it's not Plan A. But it is an interesting story, the way things unfold. And you're right. I started out in television. In fact, when I was just 20 years old, I started directing at the ABC affiliate here in our region, which exposed me to great producers and directors and writers and agencies. So I really grew up in that industry. But then, I'd married my high school sweetheart, and we were talking about, well, what would life be if we started a family? So that began my entrepreneurial journey. And that, to answer the question, how do you come up with the resources to be able to raise a family? And I started what now is Spirit Media, our agency, really doing the stuff that didn't compete in the broadcast world, because I did a lot of large scale commercial work. But Spirit Media was really set up to be able to do corporate communications, nonprofit communications, or because of my background in directing, I could go do shows. So that opened up doors for me to direct a lot of live events with Gwen Stefani and the Black Eyed Peas and Avril Lavigne. And I mean, you could go down a list, hundreds and hundreds of people that need live directors to work with them in their productions. So between that and the corporate events, I was having a ball. I mean, literally having a ball. And one of the challenges about being in the TV, the entertainment space, is that it doesn't happen virtually. You have to go to live spaces to be able to experience and produce things. And so while my beautiful wife and I had started a family, I was on the road so much that I was turning, for lack of a better term, into an absentee father and husband, because I was gone. Now, it wasn't like I was gone all the time. I really thought I was doing the right thing. I was raised in the kind of generation where you get up and you go to work and you provide the paycheck and put the roof over the head and do all that stuff. So you feel like you're doing all the right stuff. But you're not present. You're not there. And now, of course, my kids are adults, and they would be quick to tell you, to say, yeah, Dad, you were at our birthdays, you were at all our special events, you were, all those things. But if we were in a room with you, you were thinking about the next project. You were creating, or you might be on the phone, or you're jumping on stuff. And it was cool. It was neat to say, Daddy does this. But it was uncool to know that we were somewhat distanced from you in terms of having a really present relationship. Now, I didn't have the emotional wherewithal to really catch that at the time, but it was catching up with me here. So by 1998, I was what most people would say the pinnacle of success in my space, short of being a major motion picture director or going on tour, which I would not go on tour. I knew that would be the end. But I would do special shows. Everything looked sweet. And I had an opportunity to produce a documentary project. And I thought maybe this could be the difference, because if you produce documentaries, you dive into production and you get all that stuff taken care of. It goes into post, but then what happens is it goes into distribution. And once it goes into distribution, you have distribution partners who are selling it. And then the money comes in from it. And I thought, that could be a great way to do it. Maybe I could be home more. Maybe I could focus on some passion projects. So I, with a partner, developed this documentary, and it did get a distributor. Which, by the way, for anybody who's watching this and thinks, "Oh, I want to get in the entertainment, blah 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 space," look, all productions ultimately are only as good as their ability to be distributed. A lot of people think the golden, ring is when you go, I shot this, or I wrote this, or I produced this. No, it's I have written it and I produced it and I've shot it and it got seen by somebody.
Right.
That's the breakthrough. So for us to get that and to get a call from a company in Nashville to say, hey, we love this product. We want to distribute it and come here to Nashville, and we even have a large check, deposit check for this. This is sweet. So on that morning, January 20th, 1999, I knew my life was going to change that day. I knew, because we were on the threshold of a new season, a new opportunity, maybe far more lucrative, far more rewarding, and maybe I'd be a better dad. Maybe I'd be a better husband. What would it take? So I got on that plane with my best friend, Timothy Greenidge, who's a fabulous gospel singer, by the way. And we fly out over Mount Hood. I live in Portland. And we fly out over Mount Hood. And I can still remember looking out the window and seeing that beautiful mountaintop, snow-covered, looking there, so majestic, so much bigger than any problems you ever have, anything you ever have. It's right there. And I remember thinking, wow, I am so blessed. I'm just so blessed. And then I started to feel funny. And it was weird because I'm on planes all the time, and I never get sick, but it's as if things were like closing in on me, just like, it was bizarre. And I started to get a little nervous, thinking, man, I don't want to be sick. I don't want to be sick. But I felt like I was really losing it. And I turned to Tim. I said, Tim, there's something that's not right. And that's the last thing I said to Tim before, as he described it, my eyes just rolled back in my head and my arms fell by my side and my heart stopped. And Tim, actually, he really thought for a quick second, quit joking with me.
Yeah.
And then he saw, no, he's not joking. I guess when someone has that kind of scenario happen, I guess they get a look, and I had the look, and he went, no, there's something wrong. So Tim, not knowing CPR, began taking his fist, start punching me in the chest. I mean, that's really all I knew, is, okay, we're going to get this and maybe wake him up or whatever. Nothing happened. And Tim's a giant guy. He picked me up. He put me in the aisle. He began doing chest compressions. Still nothing at all. And he got to the point, he said, he pulled back his fist and he's thinking, I am going to break his ribs. And as he pulls back, I take a breath. And the thing that's so cool about that, and I say cool, for me, was that while on this plane, there was like mayhem, and there's a guy and he's dying, and what are we going to do? And they talked to the figure, we're going to have to do an emergency landing. I had the most profound experience of my entire life, and where he was in this 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever, about a tragedy. What am I going to do, guys? So I know I was past the threshold of eternity. I could have been there for 2, 3 million years. Literally, the entire dimension of time and space stopped for me. And of course, I did come back. And for those people that are, into the medical thing, I just happen to have here my first pacemaker.
Oh, wow.
Because they got me in the cardiac wing, and I didn't have a heart attack. I was diagnosed with malignant neurocardiogenic syncope, which malignant means you can die, neuro's brain, cardio's heart, and syncope means out of sync. And it's like a cousin to like fainting spells. If someone faints, really that's what they call a syncopus issue. Blood stops flowing to the brain for some reason, constriction of the capillaries, everything. You go, well, I have an extreme form where my brain tells my heart to stop. Clearly a malfunction there.
Yeah.
And they don't know what causes it, but what they do know is how to prevent it. So they put these in your chest. And the changes in me certainly occurred by having that kind of a life experience or death experience. The changes in me occurred in certainly the experience I had through that and what I encountered. But the other change really kind of came through this little guy because of my condition. If my heart rate drops below a certain point, this guy triggers in and brings my heart rate back up to where it should be. And then it goes back into monitor mode. And at different times during the life of the pacemaker, about 6 times a day, it's had to intervene to keep my heart from stopping. And the prospect and the thrill of knowing that when I go to bed at night, there's a malfunction, I might not wake up. And when I get up in the morning, it's with an overwhelming sense of gratitude that between medical science and the grace of God, I've been given another day. And that constant recognition that every day is a precious gift changed me. And it changed my approach to my personal life, my family life, my business life, and oddly enough, the fact that I am involved in this entertainment and marketing piece, it made me look at that much deeper to say, if I'm going to work in this space, if I'm called to work in this space, how do I do it in a way that is meaningful and impactful, that I'm not just wasting my breath that I've been given, but I'm using it to make a profound impact on the world. Isn't it great that business literally injects us into society every day? And how we conduct our business, what we do with our business, the lives we impact, is a decision and a privilege that we get to decide every day. And that's ultimately what led to me searching, studying, and then ultimately writing the book.
When did this book come out? How long since 1999? How many years?
Oh boy, well, it took a while. It just came out in 2020.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that even today, when you have an experience like that, it's not like you flip the switch. Look,
Yeah.
I'm a guy. I'm a flawed guy. I'm a guy. Remember, the guy before was going, well, gee, he struggles with emotional intelligence. It's not like this flip switched and then, oh, I'm a pillar of wisdom. It was one of those things where I had to learn
Right.
a little bit of time, learn a lot. And here's the thing. Look, I was raised Catholic. And so I was around, um, religious structures and things like that, and had respect. But when you look, I always say, if you have a near-death experience, if you weren't a little religious before, you'll get that way, because it causes you to do a lot of deep diving into either a personal search or even into your root system. What does that mean? And here's what I did. I started reading the Gospels. There are 4 books: John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which really just document the life of Jesus. And whatever reason that just stirred me is, especially after the death experience I had, part of me wanted to go back and kind of like when you read the book, now you watch the movie, or watch the movie, now you want to read the book. Well, I had one of those, and I said, I want to check out this Jesus guy. Here's the thing that's crazy. Okay. You can, and I don't mean to be sacrilegious or anything like that. You can say, look, Jesus talked about love. He talked about all these beautiful things that have pervaded our cultures, and have had wonderful lessons. But I'll tell you what jumped out at me. I looked at this with a new light, and as I started reading Jesus' life in chronological order, I not only saw a great man, a revolutionary, if you will, I saw the greatest marketer in the history of mankind.
Okay. All right.
And what I did is I started taking notes, and I said, what did he do when, to whom, and how, and whatever. As I started to do it, I began to reverse engineer what happened in his life and what happened after his life. And I realized that I wasn't just looking at the greatest marketing plan. I was looking at the framework for creating a movement.
Okay.
And I said, I want to try this. And so with my clients, without saying, oh, here I had the death experience, let me try this, it was like, no, these are sound. I started applying these principles one after another. Boom, boom, boom. Each time, great success, killer success. I mean, like the clients, more than pleased, delighted, and sometimes just like blown away with the outcomes when you follow the path through. And so after I had proof of concept, it wasn't just some, idea that I thought of and, in a dream. It was like, this is brilliant. I'm going to write this down. I'm going to document it. And when I had solidified it enough that I was ready to share, I finally wrote a book. And that's why it took me so long.
So before this transition point in 1999, you felt in your soul, perhaps, that there might have been perhaps a disconnect between the life that you were living and the success that you were creating in your efforts, but there was a disconnect between how people were feeling, perhaps externally to you, and you weren't. It sounded to me like you weren't present in the moment. You weren't present with the people. You were connected to all these things externally from yourself, and then it seems during this new life experience, perhaps, you became or experienced sort of a grounding, like this is now, this is today, and the next moment, like you talk about, is not guaranteed. Tomorrow I might not be here, and it seems that was so significant that it kind of stripped away maybe the chasing after some of these things, and maybe even brought these like ideas of relationships down to more principled approaches, rather than just, hey, we're going to entertain people and we're going to have a good time and it's going to be great and it's going to be, it's going to be amazing. Now it seems like you are or researched and are now operating by principles of connection, which are pervasive across all cultures and all time, which is why they work, in my opinion, so well, right? Is that pretty accurate representation?
I think it's the very accurate representation. Really, the process that started to unfold with me was this: what's really important?
Mm-hmm.
What really is? If I do go tomorrow, or I go in the middle of our time here together, what will I have left? What if I've been given this gift of breath, how will that breath have been made an impact in others? And there's really two things that emerged, not only through my research, but through reflection and application. And that is, and it sounds cliche to say, but it's the recognition that every human being desperately desires to be loved, they desire to love, and to have some significance, to know their life has meaning. And so when you recognize, okay, love and be loved, well, and I use this example in the book, I said it's kind of like the sun. The sun sits in the middle of our universe, and there's this glowing nuclear blast all the time. But if you and I were to go into space, go up 200 miles, 300 miles, move towards the sun, guess what happens? It actually gets really, really cold, really cold. And he said, well, why is that if I'm moving closer to the sun? Why? Well, the reason is that the warmth and the benefits of all the things the sun has only is experienced when it has something that it reflects and interacts with. For example, our Earth. When the sun hits our Earth, now the radiant power of that light gets transformed into heat and energy. Out in space, it's nothing. So the concept of love all by itself is pretty and nice, but like the cold of space, it's just a concept. But love in relationship is the most powerful, powerful force anywhere. And that in relationship is the key. So rather than just me thinking, love, 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 sing a Beatles song, it's how is love expressed in relationship, not only in our world, but for example, you and I, and in our time together and in the relationships in my life. How will I express that? And of course, that presence piece, that's one of the greatest acts of love you can give somebody. To be able to say, you're so important that I'm going to look into your eyes. I want to hear your heart. I want to hear your thoughts because you are valued and you're worthy to be honored. You're worthy to be respected. And yeah, you're worthy to be loved. So when we make that shift and make that deliberate point to love, that's big. Now I will also say this. That morning when I had my death experience, it's like any other morning. I'm bolting out the door, doing my thing. My idea of leaving and coming back was so routine that sometimes the kids would be at school and come home and not even realize, oh, Dad left. Oh, Dad's in LA or Dad's here now. And it dawned on me how many times I've left another life, especially a precious life, without having told them I love them. And I committed from that point on. And I don't care how freakish it looks. I'm going to tell the people in my life I love them. And if it's the last words out of my mouth, and they say, oh, I remember the last words he said. He said he loved me. I don't want it to have been, you screwed up, do this, make sure you got this. Yeah, check boxes and getting things done are important, but nothing's more important than letting the people in your life know that you love them.
Yeah, it seems to be the thing that everybody craves. People, I think the concept that people want to be seen and accepted for being seen. And so many times we kind of put on these fronts as though we don't want to be seen. We might be afraid to be seen. And so we kind of in some ways we push and repel people away. And I know for many times entrepreneurs, executives, people that get caught up in doing all of these things, sometimes it's an unconscious effort to be seen for and accepted for all of the things I can do, rather than to be seen and accepted simply because I am, which I'm wondering, as you were granted new life in that moment, new life comes through death. What what in you, if you had to look at the other side of this, if you now see this revelation of connection and gratitude, what died in you? What was stripped away from you in that near-death experience?
Well, I'd say one of the things that was stripped away from me in a really good way was, and it took time, was my false perceptions of what love is. And I've shared that. I shared that recently on LinkedIn, and I talked about goals and things like that. Look, because we all desire to love and be loved, we often mimic behaviors or scenarios that we think will cause us to be loved. For example, if we know that we love winners. We love winners. Now we also love underdogs, but we love winners. So we think, boy, if I'm a winner, I'll be loved. We also see that people that get a lot of press. I've worked with tons and tons of celebrities and some of very good dear friends, and I can tell you that just being known and being famous and being rich does not make you loved. But it gives the illusion of being loved because you get attention. We think we give attention to that which we love. So if I get attention, I might be loved. Or if I look beautiful, I might be loved. Or if I have a power, I might be loved. Or if I attach myself to someone with power, I might be loved. Or if I own something that makes me look cool, I might be loved. See, we go down tons of what I would call pseudo love exercises that give us the illusion. And all the time, every time we paint that illusion, thinking that if I do this, I'll be loved, while knowing inside who we really are, that's one of the reasons that people struggle. Because one, then they deal with imposter syndrome because they compare their insides with other people's outsides and realize, well, yeah, I don't live up to that false standard I'm shooting for. But the other is, deep down, I think we know when we have put on a mask, even though that mask can stick hard and hard to rip off. And that deep sense of longing for meaning will gnaw at you. And of course, the way we get around it, anesthetize it. Let's see if I can fill my life with a bunch of dopamine-filled exercises that give me the illusion of winning and happiness, but not fulfillment. My example, really my favorite example is Disneyland. And I say it respectfully because I've done a lot of work with the Disney folks. I've done a lot of work at Disneyland, and I love it. It's a beautiful form of artistry, and there's so many wonderful things about it. But here's the bad part. When you walk into the park, it says, "Welcome to the happiest place on earth." And you get on and you get in line, longer lines than you used to, and maybe you get on that Dumbo ride. You go up and you swing around, go wee, and you take the picture. And here's the good news. Makes you happy. Here's the bad news. You get off the very same place you got on. So you have filled a vacuum with dopamine, but you have not done anything towards greater fulfillment. And when you're absent of that real love and absent of that real understanding of your purpose and your calling and move into that fulfillment stage, which is what, look, I do it in my life. I do it even our marketing. Our marketing is about why, the clients love it and get freaked out that I press them this way. But I want to press on them that we're going to do something that's going to make a difference, not just $1. And that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, it seems that change in you moved you from this idea from success to significance. And now it's been a pervasive thing because there's nothing in the way. And I think maybe it sounds to me as it's heightened the priority for you that if you're going to expend your energy, which is your life, you're going to be present and intentional about where you're spending that energy. And if you have gifts and connections and resources to be able to make an impact, you're going to be intentional about spending that energy to make the greatest impact in something that matters.
Yeah, and that's an aspiration.
Yeah.
That is the desire. That is the hope. You know, over my shoulder, you see Iron Man back there, and Iron Man, one of my souvenirs from a show I did. I've done some work with the Stan Lee Foundation, and Stan's motto that I absolutely love, Stan Lee, who developed Iron Man and Spider-Man and all these great Marvel characters, was this: that inside every flawed human being is a superhero waiting to emerge. And it's a recognition that all of us are flawed. But the superhero, the one inside us that says you were born for greatness, you have a profound purpose, you have a unique opportunity to make a difference in the world that no one else can, is the superhero aspect. And it doesn't mean we look like it every day. It doesn't mean we fly or swing from tall buildings or anything like that. But it means when the time comes, we're there.
Yeah. I'm convinced of that same thing. I think everybody has a superpower. And the folks who can step into that fully, I think, are the folks that live with the most feeling of significance. And it seems to me that it does take a stripping away, in my experience, of the false senses of security, the false senses of success, because in the end, those things, turns out, don't matter because they are transient in nature. I'm also wondering, through this experience, it took you some time to distill and research these thoughts, sort of like a cloud, right? The clouds pass, you got all these ideas, these thoughts, and then enough ideas sort of stick together, and it's like, oh, it comes a raindrop, and all the rain falls harder, which I'm guessing is kind of what it may have felt like as you're writing that book. It's condensation coming down, and then it flows into a river, and you're like, yeah, this is it. This is the message I want to share with the world. In my experience, and maybe this is yours too, that when folks have a pivotal moment in their lives where they radically change, perhaps the way they show up, some people don't follow them. Some people can't, from their, let's say, prior journey, can't figure out how to make that transition with them into that future. In your experience, what was your experience like with the people around you as they see you changing? What were the people around you doing?
Oh, it's hard to say. I'll say, look, being the dad, probably the people that have watched me the most are my kids. And there's times they go, "Oh, I'm so proud of you, Dad." And there's times they go, "BS." I know you're still working through stuff. You're still flawed. You still, make mistakes. And I would say the biggest thing that they learn is they know I'm on a journey, and they recognize maybe for themselves they're on a journey. And that unlike some monolith that's sitting in the middle of the desert that sits unchanged for thousands of years, we are constantly transforming. And whether it's our intention to move or not move, we live in, I will call it, the current of society, the current of our world. And what they do is they see that maybe in the past I might have just been going with the flow in the entertainment space and going with the flow with my career and everything like that. That to be successful, you got to do this and you got to go there and blah, blah, blah. They see now that I have a rudder, and they see that I have made a decision about being the captain of this ship and being deliberate about the direction of my life, the role I play, and also the incredible piece that if I die tomorrow, I don't sit here in a pool of anxiety going, look, death and dying and the passing and saying goodbye is not easy, but hard is not bad. hard is not bad. So if I left, yeah, it would be, well, it might be, I'm presuming it'll be hard for, for people around me, you know, but I'm at total peace about it because we're moving forward knowing that I am not perfect. I'm a flawed human being that has had a profound experience that I pray other people can grasp and do that with their own life. And do that not just in their life, but do it in their business. Apply it to every part of your life. And that's where the greatest fulfillment lives.
Yeah. So these 7 disciplines of relationship marketing are built, I think they must be, if your research led you to Jesus and the Bible and his connection with other folks. They must be based on some universal principles, my guess is. Okay, so do you have those universal principles? Can you just quickly outline those for us?
I'll give you the quickie version.
Yeah.
I mean, the first piece of it, and my second book is going to go much deeper into this, and it's the discipline of what I call of mission. And we have tools that go with each one of them. So it's not like, now you got to do this, let's be positive, love yourself, those are all good things. But I want to take the values and the principles and throw overalls on them and put them to work. So the first discipline is really about mission. And in that, what we teach people is how to craft a mission manifesto. Similar like a constitution says, this is who I am. And it really addresses that idea of why. And we help people figure out what their why is. What is their purpose? Then we go into missions. Now, here's the thing that you get watching Jesus. Is if you read through all his stuff and start to decide, okay, what's purpose, what's mission, whatever, he actually had 26 missions. The missions that you see him enact look more like a military campaign where you can say, okay, yeah, we want to win the war, but what are we going to do? We're going to provide the supply. Mission number 1, supply the lines. Number 2, equip the troops. Number 3, we're going to, whatever. And there's missions that are a part of fulfilling a larger purpose. So rather than feeling like your arms are always tied behind your back, like you got to come up with this mission you're going to throw up on the wall or put in your employee manual, which, by the way, most people go, choke at, because you feel like you've got to say something so broad and so sweeping that it now means almost nothing. It's not actionable. One of the things we apply here is that principles mission, and there's financial missions, there's personal missions, there's strategic mission aspects of it. And when you look at whether it's a project or it's your business or your life, we break those missions down. And here's the thing that's really cool. For every mission, that's where your goals come from. Goals are not some isolated thing floating out in space like asteroids. They are directly correlated because a mission is only mission really driven when it's actionable. So, who's going to do it? When are they going to do it? How are they going to do it? How do we hold them accountable? And how does that connect with the other missions to align with the purpose? So when you have a goal, it is like a nugget of action. It's the uranium that's about to fuel the launch of your business or whatever it is you're called to do with this piece. Then there's another element, and there's the value piece. And we talk about brand values. Everybody talks about brand and branding and whatever, like personal branding, whatever. Look, real branding at its heart, when you strip away the masks, is saying, what's most important to you? And what do you aspire to at your greatest level? So we have a worksheet we share with people, and it's downloaded for free, I think, on the 70RM website. It just has a list we do with our clients. Is list these attributes that you say, this is who I am and this is what I aspire to. And you start shaping those up to make sure that you're a brand expression, not just in words, but in deed. And the last piece of that is the vision piece. And a lot of people talk about vision. It gets a little fuzzy. Like you talked about clouds and concepts. Let me tell you how you condense vision. Look at vision, for example, like when you were a little kid, and you put together puzzles. I'm guessing I put together puzzles when I was a kid. The first thing you do when you put together a puzzle is you look at the front of the puzzle box. That's what vision should be. In our world, though, we usually do it backwards. We start grabbing pieces, or there's people want to sell you stuff. Oh, you need this piece. Here, you need this piece. And we take that. Oh, I need that. You're smarter than me. I'll take this piece. Next thing you know, we're busy trying to put together a montage of clutter to see if I can make something out of it and hope that something emerges. And sometimes it does, but I'll tell you, there's nothing like having the puzzle box. When you have that, just the freedom that you have in being able to say, these are the pieces I need. And oh, by the way, I appreciate the offer. I don't need that piece. That piece doesn't fit into my puzzle. Removing the sheer volume of distractions we have in our mind and we have in the markets will give you a level of focus that will double, triple, quadruple your productivity towards a more purposeful vision rather than just chasing usually those subconscious things about maybe if I do this, I'll be loved. So that's the first discipline in action. And that'll be a lot in the second book. The second really is recognition we're here for people. We're here to be in service and understanding who you're uniquely called to serve. We go into that. It's more than just saying, oh, who's your market or who's your audience? We actually go through the same way. If I were to drive to your home, I'd get an address and I'd get a zip code and it would tell me exactly where to go to take me to your front door. But when it comes to most marketing communications, at best, we know people by neighborhood. We know people by community, maybe by state. We don't know people. We end up throwing mud against the wall because we don't take the time to generally be present for those we're called to serve. And so we have a principle called the 10-digit human address, that where you deliberately take those people that you wish you had 1,000 of, those clients you wish you had, and walk through that process so that you can really know them intimately and put a picture of them in front of your computer, in front of your door that says, guess what? Jason's my guy. I am here for Jason, period. It's about Jason. And it's a game changer because guess what? That affects your entire messaging strategy. So instead of talking to the universe, your messaging turns into a love letter. Because every word is said with meaning and relevance and care and concern and hope and aspiration for the audience that you know how to serve, not an imaginary cloud that you hope someday will turn into a drop of water and land in your cup.
It seems that it takes marketing from a numbers game, and how do I just fill my hopper with more people, to a very personal aspect, maybe slowing down. It seems what it feels to me like it slows down the process of marketing and makes it focus on me. It takes marketing to focuses it on meaning rather than simply, throwing phrases out there and graphics and saying, well, we think we've got our client avatar, and throwing things out to the universe.
Well, yeah, and that's why the term is 7 disciplines of relationship marketing.
Yeah.
And one of the things, it's interesting when you watch people search or think relationship marketing, you think, oh yeah, I'm going to put in my CRM that, oh, Chuck has 2 kids and he likes golf, and here's his birthday, and I'm going to send him a birthday card as if I care, or I'm going to have everybody in the office sign their name to a gift card or something. Look, that's garbage. You and I know that is feigning interest. It's feigning care. It's feigning relationship. I don't know who all your audience is, but hopefully I'll keep this PG. I mean, look, when we're in high school and you go to the prom and you meet your date for the first time, she's like, no, eyes here, tiger, eyes here, I remember that feeling. But that thing still goes on with salespeople all the time where, we're not looking at people's eyes. We're staring at their wallet. And guess what? Customers, clients, the people in your life know when you look at them for what you can get out of them, not for what you can give to them. And they're busy going, hey, but they know where your eyes are going.
Yeah.
So relationship marketing is more than feigning relationship. It's getting your eyes in the right place because your heart is in the right place. And then we have systems to allow you to do it effectively and thoughtfully and efficiently.
Well, this has been fascinating to dig into your book and also the story. I can only imagine that you've told that story so many times since 1999, and I'm guessing that as you've told it and retold it in your own mind, it has developed more meaning for you. And now you've got this book, 7 Disciplines of Relationship Marketing, and you said you're working on a second follow-up book to that.
Yeah.
What's your timeline on that, do you think?
It'll come out before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's the plan. It'll come out before the end of the year. And look, talk about flawed human beings. Like I'm a television director, and I'm actually a really accomplished television director. I'm a new writer. Writing this book was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It's one of the most satisfying, but it was hard. And so as I'm going through the second book, I know enough now to even be more critical. So I'm aiming to have this book out before the end of the year, but know that I am like wrestling with it as I do.
I understand. I completely understand. I wrote my first book and published it this past year, and wrote it in a way that I've never produced it, in a process that I have never followed pretty much in anything else before. And it was very, it was an eye-opening experience to get that done, but meaningful. So how can people follow up with you to get more information about the 7DRM? I know your book is available on Amazon, and you talk about the 7DRM website. Where can people go for that?
Well, yeah, if you just want to connect to connect through the 7DRM, go to 7, the number 7, and then the DRM.com. It's just a landing page. It's a place where you can see the different ways you can engage with us of the 7DRM product. It'll take you to Amazon if you wanted to buy the book or the Kindle. We also have a video series. So if you want to go through the workshop, very inexpensive way to just go through the material, you can do the self-study workshop. And we're going to be launching some seminars that are going to be open to the public. But I will say that probably one of the number one ways that people apply the 7 disciplines is people will hire us to come in and do a 7DRM workshop in their company or their organization. And that's another option if someone feels like, man, I really want to dig in. I'm ready to wipe the slate clean, get a great overhaul, or even just refine and make sure that we're doing the right things for the right reasons in the right ways. So that's one way. And my agency still exists. We still produce a lot of television. We produce a lot of videos. We produce a lot of live events, and that's spiritmedia.com.
Awesome. Well, Bill, thank you so much for being on the What Works podcast to me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All righty. Well, to our viewers and listeners, this is the What Works podcast, where we interview executives, authors, and people who are looking to change the world. I hope that you follow up with Bill and his resources, and you might find your world, your business, your life changed as well. If you know a person working to change the world who would be a great guest on the What Works podcast, contact me, jason@therealjtodd.com. You're listening to What Works with Jason Todd. Learn more at therealjtodd.com.